What's Ost. Diana. I'm Vyrl Keeter. Grew up at Stony Point, at the mouth of Mulberry Holler, and attended, my first school was Mulberry Holler Indian Day School. So the primary language was Cherokee, because most of the students, and there were only 10, 12 students, and the primary language was Cherokee. So we were a mixed breed family, the Keeters were, but we didn't talk Cherokee at home, but we picked up the Cherokee there in school. So, and to communicate, we had to learn Cherokee. So we did learn it, and I've forgotten most of it. By now, I'm not fluent, but I understand a great part of it, and I haven't forgotten all of it, so can do that. We own the property there where the three creeks converge, Mulberry, Caney Creek, and Horn Creek. And our properties go around those and back up on the Coon Mountain. So that's where I grew up and where I began thinking about arrowheads and these things. And my thoughts were, as I grew up as a kid, I wanted to hunt and fish and do those things, play ball, and like any other child, I guess. But it always intrigued me as to how those arrowheads were made. And there are plenty of arrowheads there, we know, in Adair, Cherokee County, and in this area. So my granddad was a Dale. We call him Dealer. My mother's the Cherokee. My father wasn't the Cherokee. And he could give us some ideas, but he wasn't real astute with it. But he knew how they were made, and he told us that. But since that time, this arrowhead making, the first flaking noticed was about a little over 2 million years ago in Africa. And then what the archaeologists have found is some flakes that were made by Aborigines. Oh, it was not Aborigines 2 million years ago. They were down walking on four legs people. And then later on, a million years from then, the erectile people came that were walking upright and began to advance the making of tools out of flint. And that's what we're really into, is how to make tools out of flint that are usable or other things. And we have advanced in this process until there are many, as you can see from some of the artifacts that I have brought along for displays, that I did not bring some of those that I found, and I missed doing that. But there's quite a difference between the one that you find and then the ones that the flint knappers make today. And flint knapping, actually, after the African finds, then they begin to find materials in France. And that was the next advance. And the next advance was the coming into the South Americas and up through the South Americas into North America, where the Aborigines here were making the flint tools. So that's really the background to this. And my background has been, I've been doing this not at this level since I was 13, 14 years old. And since I told someone earlier, I'm 2 years older than water, so that dates back quite a ways. But some of the things that we use, most of the artifacts were made for tools. If you think back, the only thing they had none of the modern equipments or steel or coppers and those things that we use today. They had copper back then because copper came out of Michigan, out around the Great Lakes, into even down to the Spiral Mounds where artifacts were made from copper there. But I wanted to know how they were originally made, and my granddad showed me they took another stone or a deer horn or something like that and made them. So I'll show you some of these tools. This is a moose horn, which in hardness, the moose horn is the hardest of the antlered animals. Then it comes down, the white-tailed deer is next that we know about, and then the elk. The elk horn is much softer than the white-tailed deer, and not as usable. This is a white-tailed deer that's used for flaking, doing the real intricate works. And then they use the hammer stones, and I use these a lot, just around, usually a harder rock than the ones they were working on. And I use two sizes of those. These are the smaller ones, and actually one half this small when I make a small point. But I prefer the copper, starting with the large hammers, and I have hammers real big. And this is a smaller one that I use. And I use the copper billets now, which I like much better for percussion. By the way, flint knapping is a term that we have taken from the German people, which simply means to strike or to hit or to nibble, and that's what we call making arrowheads to the flint knappers. We travel all over the nation, different places across the nation, for what we call knap-ins, and it'll be where different flint knappers meet and learn from each other and sell either the tools they make or the artifacts that they produce. They either sell them or trade them or buy material to make. And I also use these are just plastic rods with a copper wire in the end of them. I do the fine work with them. Do the percussion with these. I use 3 to 4 sizes of those. I use a copper cap the plumbers use and electricians, and fill it 1/2 full of lead, and then glue that onto a billet. And it won't use that real good glue, and it doesn't come loose. It works fine. It works, and I prefer that to the hammer stone. And then the abraders, this is one that came off our farm that was used, and I use it some now, but you can see the deep intrusions where they've rubbed on the rock to take the sharp edges off. When you begin to bake, I'll show you here later, where you don't hit into sharp edges with this. You abrade that off, and that's one of the abraders there. And most of the time I just use carborundum, coarse carborundum, like a grinding wheel and I break those in two and use those. Try to save a little money. The other thing in flint knapping is safety procedures. This flint is extremely sharp. It's actually sharper than some of the obsidians, when they knock those flakes off, are sharper than surgical steel. And you can just cut a piece of paper, zip with it, and you can't do that with the surgical deal. It'll kind of tear as you pull it. But for safety, I don't work without using gloves. And I say I don't, but when I do, I pay for it, because I have place on the end of this finger now, and some places here where the little fine flakes that come off stick in. When they stick in, according to how deep it goes, but if you just rake it off, the real fine point of that stays inside the skin. And as you use your hands, they just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Then you have to dig it out, and that's pretty painful. But the first thing is safety gloves. The other would be glasses. Either glasses, I use glasses, and I did use those soft lenses. I stopped doing that. They're too expensive because they get scratched up with this rock dust all the time. And a little flake will fly off and hit them and pit them, so I just use I get the glass lenses now instead of that soft lens. Saves me money. The other use would be of course, the different sizes of hammer stones. And the pads.
It's way behind you, over there on the right.
Here we are. I use two types of pad. This is an old farrier's, one side of a farrier's, the guy that shoes horses, chaps. I use one side of that, and then take the moose skin and use on top of that. Moose hide is tougher than the other hides. You know, deer skin is so soft that it's not good to use. Cow hides are fair, but they're not flexible enough, so this works just real fine. And then I use the moose horn with the rod in the end or the deal. So those are most of the tools and the safety things that you should use as precautionary measures to save yourself. So, and the other main thing, if you're working a lot of obsidian, which is volcanic glass that comes, I get most of it from Oregon and California, and you work obsidian, you'll cut your hands. So I carry a bottle of alcohol and some little Band-Aids. And if it's if I get real bad, I have some elastic tape. I was a football coach for a good while in Muskogee, and I know how to use tape, so you tape that up pretty quick when you hurt yourself to stop that blood. So those are the backgrounds of flint knapping that I give you in a brief here to let you know what. The next thing that you pick up is the different materials that are to be used for making usable tools. We'll call that more than we would arrowheads and artifacts. It's usable tools because that's what most of those things were for. And I use whatever rocks that are available that's usable, and we heat treat those rocks. Some of them the chert. Now in America we call this flint, but in America it's chert, and the chert is associated with limestone. Wherever you find the good chert, you'll find limestone. Geologically, that's where it is. And where we get the flint from is England and Denmark and those places. We have one type of flint in America at Georgetown, Texas, and we call it Georgetown flint. It's the closest thing to the true flint that we have in America. And you can tell very little difference in it, but for getting types of different rocks, you know, that's interesting to know maybe that we really don't have flint in America, and that's what we call all these rocks, most of them in our area here, especially in the Cherokee Nation. And we have some good stuff. I'll show you first some material that comes from the Cherokee Nation or areas in Oklahoma. The first we call it Peoria or Keokuk. And that's, for this, it's up at a little town called Peoria, Oklahoma, east of Miami, Oklahoma. And we like this because we call it bullseye. And this is red and orange on the outside, and of course, it's down, and it's not all bullseyes, but that's the premium stuff that you get when you dig it out and quarry it. That's one of the types of rock. Another type is novaculite. Most of the evaculite we get, it comes from hot springs, near hot springs in Melbourne, Arkansas, but it dwindles, it goes back into Oklahoma. And a lot of that goes all the way to Lake Sardis. If any of you are familiar with that area down around Clayton, Oklahoma, and what they call the Tater Hills, there's a lot of novaculite there, and that's exceptionally good flint, or good, I call it flint, well, as everybody else does. But Arkansas, the quarry people in Arkansas dig this out and then saw it with big saws and make the Arkansas whetstones that you order to sharpen your knives, and they ship it all over the world. Because it is really excellent for sharpening all types of cutlery. Those are two of the things that you find in Oklahoma. And then the thing closest to those of us here is a little stream over in the wildlife management area of Camp Gruber. That's Oklahoma Department of Wildlife has that one park, you know. And if you can see this, I find that what's most popular now is the color, and it has the good color rings and all that. Well, I named it Cherokee Boone, and that's what everybody calls it now. The flint knappers that are able to go in that one little stream and pick up pieces and then bring it back and put it in keels or down in a ditch and put fire over it and heat it, and that enhances it to flake much better. Yes, sir.
Now, can you go into these places and get that on your
Yes,
own,
sir.
or you buy
Yes,
it as
sir.
you get it, or?
Yes, sir. You can go get some. Yes, sir. Or
Access that through Zeb, don't you? Through Zeb?
You can go in at Zeb,
Is it Greenleaf?
and it's not too far. Also, those little creeks there around Zeb has some of it. Yes.
Kind of go around Highway 62 side.
Yeah. And they make beautiful points, just real beautiful. But like that, it's been picked over a lot, so you have to be fairly select. Large piece of Peoria from near Peoria. I think I told you about where it was, up near Miami, or east of Miami, about 15 miles, near Seneca, Missouri. And we get this out of a quarry, and the quarry is an old Indian quarry. That's why and a guy from Oregon came and bought a little piece of land there to dig this out. He's a flint man, but he dealt primarily with obsidian, and when he got into this, he
Now, do you have to
didn't
pay
get it.
for that when you go there to get it?
I'll go there and get it.
You have to pay for it?
Yes, I don't, there's some places there I can dig it, but he has it dug up, and the material below surface is the better material. It has fewer fractures in it, and fractures are what causes you to make poor artifacts. That's, the better the material, the better flint knapper you are. It's just that simple. Now, there were two issues that comes to mind. One is, we were talking about angles, and the angle is what we're talking about when we say set up a platform or make a platform. A platform is merely an angle from which to strike, to knock off a flake. That's what your angle is for. That is a platform right there. and we call that a natural platform. And you don't want it to be a real steep platform, but just an angle so you can strike it. And underneath this, you see a concavity. And this is another no-no. Do not hit into a concavity. It'll cause a hinge, and a hinge is a fracture in the rock, just a sharp drop off, and you have to come all the way from the opposite side and drive a flake all the way from there to take that gap out. So you don't want to do that. If you do, just tap it so it just go to the bottom of the concavity, your flake will, and you'll be okay. And this one, on this rock, instead of hitting it here on the side where the platform is, I'll come back here and run it at an angle down the thing to take that out without having the fear of that big concavity. Let's see if that works. Use a little bigger billet and support that real well. And it followed all the way down that. It went all the way from here all the way to here on it. Now I can come back from the other side and I won't be making that big hinge. You see how smooth that is as the flake travel through it? And let's try it now from the opposite side and just make some little short ones. There's 3 little whacks. I don't know what it did, but I have to assume that those flakes went to the bottom of that concavity. So there's number 1 and 2 and 3, and I got it smoothed off a little bit to go right here, and I'll have that all smoothed across. So let's just go ahead and knock that off now. We have it smoothed off. So that's an example of doing some preparation to avoid a calamity later. Now, and for that rock, you would make a large piece, and that was a good demonstration piece. Let's do this. Knock some off this now. I'm just doing some knocking. We have some time left, and I'll do another large spall or 2. And in this one, you remember that I indicated the color lines, and this is a color rock. It's a rainbow, so you want to contain that color. And we'll have to hit it along those, to drive those spalls off along those lines to have the color. Let's see if we can do that. I see we've got a rainbow here, and I'll try to go across. That's where the color lines change and swirl around. So I'll try to drive one off from this corner. We'll use a big hammer. Get that out of the way, and that didn't go as I actually wanted it to, but I got that out of the way. Now I'll try to knock one. See those lines? I'll try to drive one off right here that will give us a good color piece. And you can't see those, but I want to pass that around and let you wiggle that in the light so that you can see those colors that are involved in that. And you see this indenture here? That's a percussion bulb of percussion. And those run at about a 55-degree angle. The angle stays the same every strike you make, whether it be a real teeny one or a huge one, but it may widen on you in this because of the heavy piece you use or whatever, but the angle stays the same. that's the principle of flint knapping that you use in order to get those flakes to go the way you want them to go. And if you turn those angles right and strike those, turn your pieces right, then that angle will take you true. You'll use that angle and how it goes. And that's why we'll move the rock itself, or we'll knock a little piece of it off to make a platform to do that. So I'll knock a piece off here and a piece here. And I'm going to use my little copper hammer now to come with this one. And there's another one that's just eaten up with color. Watch it, it'll sure cut you. And this one is so colorful, it just, can you see it from there? If that light gets off that correctly, and then when you make those knives out of that, you take them to a sale, the people just, there you go. Let's try one more here. No, that one kind of splattered on me. He's still full of color. He got the royal color purple in it and all that. Watch it. Those edges. Don't throw it. Now, to give you a historical thing in flint knapping, when we talked about who made these, how did they do it, and what they looked like in 1911 in California, there's an Aborigine that wandered into the town, and the people thought he was drunk, but he was starving and weak. And anyway, the sheriff, and at that time in California, it was pretty wild. They didn't like Indians. And then the sheriff was afraid that the natives would kill him. So he put him in jail. And a professor from the university there in California, came and could communicate with him, and they named the guy Ishi. They brought him in, and he could communicate with Ishi, and he would make arrow points there for them and show them how it was done there at the college, and would take different ones out on the desert and show them what plants they could use and etc. And he's the only real true Native American that had these arts and could do these things. And there's a history of him, there's pictures of him, and we know exactly, and that's what we try to do. I have a point or two, I've tried to replicate some of his. And what he did was he made a notch where the opening was just that wide. And it widened out after it got inside the mass. And that's the most difficult thing you'll have to do. It is difficult. If you're good enough, you can do it. And there's very few that are good enough to do that, but some of the guys now do it. And Itchy's the one, he only lived about 4 years until he died of his malnutrition and stuff. And he told them that story that his mother and his sister were the only two left of their tribes, and they had hidden out for so long and stayed away, and they finally died. And so that's why he wandered in. He couldn't take care of himself. He was just trying to get some food when he wandered into town. Anyway, that's a heck of a piece of rock there. Can you see it good enough with the colors in that? Yeah. marvelous. Now, let's get to the point, we've done that, let's do the biface. This is a Cherokee boom, and I did that. I don't want to do that because I won't take time here. It takes a little time to keep those lines the way I want them. But let me do one that's, so it makes sure we're within the time constraints. Let me do the flaking on one that you do to make the small arrow points. And I have, while we're doing that, you know, in making those, most of the time when you find an arrow point and it's broken, they weren't broken. Most of them were not broken hunting or whatever. They were broken by people like me making them. So I broke one. Here it is. And you'll find a lot of them that I call them a butch. That thing would have been this long if it had gone on down, see, from the other side. And I just thread the corners on and resharpened. Now I have a usable arrow point. They did this a lot. They used the same point. They'd use it a while, and they'd get it chipped off and dulled, and they'd just resharpen it and make another point out of it that was just as usable. And there's one of them that I did too. I did that yesterday to give you an idea of what happens to some of those little short butches that you might pick up, or one that's broken off. They do. Now I'll try to make one of these colorful ones that you'll like. You like this one when I finish this, I think. And I'll use I won't use an itchy stick on it. I'll use a little sharp flaker. When you do these fine ones, you want your flakers to have a sharp point on them, like that. And this one's a little bit dull. It makes wider flakes, and this will make real narrow flakes. And I'll use those leather pads. The leather pad just simply keeps that flaker from getting in. I've had it slip off and get into my thumb, and it doesn't feel good at all. All right. Again, you braid those edges. Those sharp edges won't flake. They'll crumble. So I'll start here at the point. I hope I can get my pad so that you're able to see it. Are you able to see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're chipping off the backside?
I'm chipping off the backside. There we go. Placing that a certain distance, the same distance apart. As I wade right on down, come back there. Now is when they break about the middle usually, because you put too much pressure with your fingers straight across from your flaker to hold it down. And if you put too much pressure on there sometimes, and what I do is set my finger behind the point to keep it from slipping rather than pushing down on it so much. And all I want to do is keep it from slipping anyway. It saves me from breaking a lot of them. And I hope I have a little flake pattern here that you can look at. If you can see that, there'll be a flake pattern all the way down through there on that.
Hang on a
About-
second, it's having difficulty focusing. Put it back on that pad. Maybe it'll show up better.
That pad is the wrong color. That's right. Now, no, that's brown, it's translucent.
Black and white, it don't matter what color it is.
I've got a green pad. I want to show that.
Good on your head.
Here,
Here it is. Maybe this will show you the flake pattern. If not, we'll get one that will show it. See if that will show it.
yeah,
Show it okay?
yep.
And the other side.
What kind of
Now, I'll
rock
come
is
back and
that?
do the other side on this. It's, see where that's, I'll braid that and do the other side, and I hope to have a flake pattern matching.
What kind of rock is that you're?
That is man-made glass. Look pretty? What you want is for your flakes to go at least halfway across the piece so that they meet in the center and they give you that convexity, because flakes follow uphill better an oval or convexity better than a flat surface. So that's what I'm trying to do. Maybe I'll get it here. I like to start from the point. A lot of people use the base, but I normally go from the point.
Chocolate making slavery.
Gee, thanks.
You can see little chips on the back side of those pencils.
Sort it through.
Now, do we have that one where we can see the convexity in it, plus the flake patterns? I'll come to, and those have come at least halfway. And sometimes there'll be some little flakes that didn't turn loose, hanging, we'll call them hanging flakes. We've got a little bit left on that edge, and I'll knock those off. Very carefully, because this breaks easily. The prettier the object, the more fragile it is that correct? You guys believe that? Dylan over there's a young guy, he'll understand that. Got a little thick spot in there. Need to take that out. There it is.
I won't zoom out. Where am I?
Think I should be a little careful there.
Yeah, haven't got all that chocolate.
Now remember, I can turn that point.
You ever count how many times you do that?
No.
I've been counting, you did.
You've been counting on me?
I'm really bad about that, counting. You did 21 on that first one, then you still, and you flaking it some more, and on the other side, you ended up was 42, and I quit counting. I forgot when you did that many holes in that slot.
You didn't see him
have medication for that.
Maybe she's on medication.
I mean, he just keeps on and on and on and on.
I guess that's why he's called Flint Knapping.
He's a what? God, that, I couldn't do that.
So about how long, start to finish, would it take you if you didn't have to?
No, I worked some on this, so it saved me time.
But I mean, from a big rock to a finished piece, about how long on average does it take you?
Probably, well, how long did it take to do that first one?
Hour.
15 minutes,
Yeah, totally.
20,
That's true,
About
yeah.
according to what I'm working with.
15 to 20 minutes.
And it's according to what type of material you have. Now, that one is ready to notch, and I won't do anything to the base until I notch it. And I think that you seem to favor that corner notch. I need to work a little that point's not the way I want it.
And you said that was man-made glass. Was it a flat piece of glass?
Yes, sir. No.
How thick was
Yeah.
it?
This was a big round ball, that big around, and I broke it open. Like a big old marble.
So was it made in China?
No, no, this was, China doesn't make these, they can't compete with the Americans on some of this stuff. Isn't that seems funny, doesn't it? I love that. All right, let's do it a little better, Keeter. Let's do a good notch in these now.
It's his coach coming in.
Do each side.
It'd make me sad to work that hard
Yeah,
and
it
broke
broke,
it. I'd get mad at it.
Too.
I would, that'd be
I'd
just
probably throw it across.
throw it
Yeah.
away. I
Don't know either standing around, just go through the wall or something.
First echelon maintenance, that point's getting crooked, see it?
I wouldn't have patience.
Yeah, we can't have a crooked point now.
That old deer horn, I've used that one quite a bit. You just file him off. Use him too. But I won't on this one. Now this will have a platform. If you can see that, that has an angle like so on it. And I'll take it off on this side rather than the other way. About halfway in there. And when you're doing this notching,
He's gonna change positions on you.
turn that over now, and you've got your angle. I notched it from this side. Now I braided it. Now I'll turn it over, and my angle will be right to take it off from the other side. There's a nice, see that little flake on my flaker out here? That's what you want, look like a little buckshot deal. And these two sides, you want to keep that open so that your flaker doesn't touch those corners, or they'll knock those ears off on you, and you mess it up. And I'm good about it, messing it up.
Why you gonna mess this one up?
Well, what I'm gonna do with this one.
You broke it.
Broke that corner. I'll straighten it up a little. I'll just make a wider notch here. And the strings you use to tie it on the stick with is big old fat string, so you have to have a wide notch.
Adapt and overcome.
Now there's one notch. See if we can duplicate that. Turn that over to have the angle right. I'm gonna braid it just a little bit. When I knock that first flake off, what I'm really doing is just taking that point and braiding a little bit with it. I've got to knock the corner of this one off to match the other one.
So the real colorful ones that's in this little frame, that's glass also?
Yes, yes.
And glass still comes off at a 50-degree angle or 55.
Each one of these little flakes. That's call them bulb of percussion. That's a big factor in the physics course. This one's got to take that corner off a little. Come on, little booger. How many of you ever been to Mulberry Holler?
Very far from it.
We bought the old squirrel place, Helix Squirrel. Well, my dad did. And I think my brother ended up with it, Tammy's father.
So Tammy's the only squirrel that lives out there now?
She's the only squirrel out there. Slowly. I've hunted a lot of them. You know, you do different things as you're growing up, as many of you quite well aware of for yourself, to make a living. One of the things when I got into education in Muskogee, the big thing there was athletics, and I didn't want to be involved in athletics, but I was drafted into it because they needed people, not because I was good. And that made me a good living. In that, I would broadcast. I did play-by-play for football games mostly. It started with basketball. I didn't like basketball, and I just did all football. The last game that I broadcast was for KMUS,
Right.
and it was in East St. Louis, right near the big Cahokia mounds, the Cahokia Indians that had those big mounds. But they had built a new football stadium and didn't have everything set up good. And our telephone lines went through the coach's office. And if that wasn't a mess.
How old were you when you started doing this?
Oh, about 13, 14.
I remember you told us, I couldn't remember what you said.
Who taught you?
I pretty much self-taught.
Really?
Granddad showed me how
I bet you tore up a bunch of rocks.
to take a rock. The big problem was getting good enough rocks to work. And that's when I got into this mess. I decided, when I really got into it, I was at the point of retiring from education. And there was a number of people that did knapping together. And likewise, they didn't have good rocks. So I started gathering good rocks. I think, man, look, you gotta have material if you're gonna work. So that's really how I started gathering this material. I was retired, and my wife, Ms. Keeter, was state food service consultant and traveled all over. So I dug into this. I don't know if she agreed or not. She never did say. I was fortunate.
And you did sell these?
She never complained. That lady didn't know how to complain. All right. I think that's a good point that you could go fishing with. And here's another. I'll get after this one. This is that boon, Cherokee boon, and it has a bullseye right in the center of it. And I'm going to try to retain that bullseye in that thing, so I'll work most of from the opposite side. And if I can get it thinned down enough, I think I'll get some material off the bullseye, and I'll have one on each side. So let's see what we do. So let's make us a platform with the abrader. It's thin enough now, you could almost make a platform with your abrader.
And so this is a lot softer material than glass, right? It's softer material than glass, or is it harder?
No, it's tougher.
Okay.
It's a lot tougher than glass. It's not as hard. The glass is harder, but it doesn't flake as well. So we'll do something with this booger. If it is wrong. And I'll use this stick when we're talking about Ishi, the old Indian. He took a broom handle and put a nail in the end of the broom handle, and that's what he used to put the big pressure on. Otherwise, he just used a little short stick and put a nail in it, and that was what he used. And his hammerstone was about the size of a hen egg.
Did they do a Nova special about him or something?
Did
Okay.
they have a Nova special on TV about him?
Yes, yes,
Because I remember
yes.
watching that one time.
He was a smaller guy. He wasn't large at all.
So what's the technique on that stick? Do you hook it under your elbow?
Hook it under here, and you use the whole thing for leverage. You see, I'm knocking. See how long those flakes are? I'm knocking with it, and part of that flake is on the has already fallen off. Got to get that base down on this because it won't be as easy to notch as that obsidian or glass. And there's the residue off those 3 notches. 1, 2, 3, well, 4 notches. 1, 2, 3, 4 notches there. And you can see each one of those, there's a bulb of percussion on this one. Every one of them has that same little bulb. If you can see this one,
Turn it this way a little bit.
can you see it enough? Okay. All right, we'll get some others. Now I use my flaker to do some shearing with. We'll get that little booger straightened out here. There's kind of flakes you want to take off. Another one. And another one. That's about as far as I'll go there, and I'll come to the side now. Try to straighten that up.
Remind us again why you abrade the corners. Remind us again why you abrade the corners.
To remove whatever real small loose flake might be there, and to help an angle and rough it up so that your flaker won't slip. It'll catch on and hold well.
And is that the reason why you use copper and not steel or something?
Good one. Steel is too slick. It's too hard and too slick, and it'll slide off. And copper will cling. It's a little bit softer,
Yeah.
and it'll catch a lot better. Great.
Did you use brass or is it too soft?
Would brass be too soft?
Brass will chip, and copper doesn't chip.
What about copper compared to antler?
It's the closest thing to antler with the consistency of it. That was a wad of flakes that I had to drive off. There's a hump there. And in getting that hump out, I'll lose some width, so I'm going to be careful with it. When you get to this point in working one, you have to be a little more careful then. That has an indenture right where my flaker point is. And if I can get under that, I can take some of that out. If I can't, I won't. I'm going to abrade it. I got a little bit, but not very much. I'll abrade that real good and strengthen that The abrading strengthens the edge of your piece. I'll go here near the base first. Now, that's good. I'll come back here. There he is. That's the whole, I got the whole top of that off. There was a little knob, like a little wart on it. Guess we all know what warts are. Now let's go to the other side and play with them. This would be a usable size arrow point. And this one will need to be a corner notch. And most likely will not make a deep notch with it. We've got it usable. Not in bad shape. There's my first. And that percussion bulb is on every one of those. You see that little bulb on there? And I'll have another one when I knock this one off. All right, I've got two sides now with half the notch on. And I'll turn it over and knock the flake off down through here and one down through here. Down through here meaning you're looking at it, so maybe I'm grammatically correct. There's another one with the percussion bulb. They're all, it just shows good, really not putting it over. Every one of them. Now, that is a wider, see that's kind of thick, so I'll lay that on the side. And I have one that I use for those, like those real thin ones over there. It's flattened and sharpened, and it'll usually works a little better, so let's see. And deep in the notch. You hear him? Grinding a little.
How much do you usually sell them for?
Big Gates?
How much do you usually sell them for?
$10 to $50. I let the gift shop here cheat me all the time. The one here and over to the other place. They've been pretty nice to me.
I bet they sell quite a few of them.
Roasting ear over to Bill and Miss Taylor here.
Is it hard to drill a hole in them afterwards?
To
Drill a hole in it, like if you're wanting to not put it on your, but like use it for jewelry or something, drilling a hole in it?
what you do is wire tie the notch through the notches and make a loop at the top and run your thing through there. But yes, you can drill a hole, but you have to have a jeweler's drill or
It just almost be better to drill it before you started chipping on it.
the Aborigines could drill. They had little drills and they pulled that thing like you used to make a fire and to drill with, but now to drill through another rock is a different picture because you have to use a rock to do the drilling and you have to have one sharper than that. Then the vaculite would have worked. It would work that way and make drills. But it would take 2 forevers to get one of those, so it's better just to use a wire tie.
Got about 5 minutes left.
Well, I've about got this one finished.
Don't put any pressure on it.
Now, he's good about that. You never did coaching, Muskogee, or
No.
you either win or you get another job. That's probably why I'm making arrowhead.
The lost time.
Folks, there's a good enough arrow point.
Don't focus that close.
Can you see that well enough?
Yeah.
You can auction it off?
Yeah,
We do have an option
help you
here.
out right there.
And yeah, thank you. What did the good Cherokee say? Sonale? Is that correct? Sonale? Later? Tomorrow?